What am I supposed to do?
Come in. Hi. I was just feeding Johnny his breakfast.
I see.
Would you like some cornflakes?
No, thanks, honey.
I'm not, honey. I'm the lady of the house till Mama gets home.
Oh, I'll remember that. You go right on with breakfast.
Why did you bring me here?
Poverty and uncleanliness are not necessarily companions. In this case, the father's in the hospital, and the mother has to work all day to earn a living. So, you see what happens. How wonderful it would be if Mrs. Ross would come home just one day and find everything spick and span. Now, I'm sure there's a pail and scrubbing brush around somewhere, and we need some soap. I'd be glad to run down to the store and... What's the matter, Emily?
Why did you do it to me? Why?
I understood you wanted to help people.
It isn't that simple, and you know it.
It's exactly that simple. You can pass out 10,000 revolutionary handbills. You can chain yourself to every lamppost in the city. You can incite a riot every other Thursday. But Mrs. Ross will still need some help to clean up that house and get dinner for those kids. They can't wait for that millennium you promised. They need help now. And God wants us to do something about it, not just talk about it. You don't improve the world by fiery speeches and clenched fists. That's been tried. You go out and see what's wrong. And you get a scrubbing brush and get down on your knees. If a dirty floor is what's wrong. And if a child crying is what's wrong, you dry its tears. And if a blind man trying to find his way is what's wrong, you reach for his arm. That's real love of people. And if you don't believe that the way to change the world is through kindness and decency, then all this idealistic talk of yours about your concern for your fellow man is just a lot of humbug. Come on. I'll take you home.
Professor Graham,
Yes, Emily?
do you think that with the pail and scrubbing brush, you could find me an apron?
I shouldn't be at all surprised.
African voodoo, dark idolatry. Young Albert Schweitzer had heard and read of such things, but they had always seemed far away. Yet now, as he stood on the brink of a great career in Europe, he felt that God was calling him to Africa. Why? What could he do to help these people? Could he destroy the heathen idols? No. Could he heal the sick? No. He was not a doctor. He could do nothing. And yet, young Albert Schweitzer came to realize he could do something. He could help these benighted beings. He could become a doctor. Answer this silent plea. Modern medicine would drive out voodoo. Reverence for life and compassion for pain. Christianity would replace heathen fetishes.
Hanging by the thumbs is much like crucifixion. It is a form of torture which brings death by infinitely slow degrees. Within 1 hour, the victim, balancing on the tips of his toes, is no longer able to sustain his weight. The body sags down, pulling the hands and arms from their sockets. After the first hour, every movement wrenches from the sufferer some new agony. Now, will you stop preaching your foolish religion? No. From that time, each second that passed seemed to Peter an eternity. Each minute, the pain increased in the torn joints, muscles. Hours stretched into days, and Peter John remained suspended between life and death in a pain-filled world. Hungry, thirsty, finally too weak to cry out, to speak, unable even to pray. his hands already dead and feeling nothing. It was only a matter of hours until death would mercifully end his suffering.
Some risks in life.
Sure. Ask Paul. He's got friends over in East Hill, taking risks all the time.
Jack, the other day you said you thought the church didn't have much to say. Well, I feel that the church is its people. I'm one of those people, so I'm the church, right?
Are you kidding?
No, I'm not kidding. And I've got a couple of things to say. Look, two of the most precious things I have are my boys. And I'll be hanged if I'm going to raise them in the same tight little cocoon that we're in. I took them to church Sunday over in East Hill. And maybe they're beginning to see what the rest of the world is really like. I don't know if those people over there got anything out of it, but we did. That's item one. Item two, if I really believe that I am the church, then I've got to do something too. I've been a Sunday Christian most of my life. My minister, my church, been trying to say things to me, but I wasn't listening. Well, now I'm beginning to hear things, hear words that are making sense to me.
What words, Paul?
Christ died for all men. What are we living for?
Let the little children come unto me. Words echoing down the centuries. But today, how well do we hear them? What are we doing to bring children to Him? To feed the hungry ones, shelter the homeless ones, teach them as Jesus would have us do. Come with us to see something of what is being done and still needs doing for God's children around the world. Since the dawn of history, the Sphinx and pyramids have spoken of the wealth and power of ancient kings. But there is another less inspiring side of Egypt, and that is to be seen in the villages along the river banks. Perhaps it was to a place like this that Joseph and Mary brought the infant Jesus when they fled there to escape the wrath of Herod. Perhaps his eyes may have seen the poverty that still exists among these people. Most are Mohammedans, whose women are often uneducated, not even taught to give proper care to their children. Among people like these, not long ago, 9 out of 10 babies died in infancy. In recent years, there has been much improvement, thanks in great extent to a remarkable lady, Lillian Trasher, here shown with a widow and her children. Miss Trasher came to Egypt in 1911 as a missionary. Appalled by the crushing poverty and disease, she founded an orphanage. For years, it was supported only by answers to her prayers. She tells this mother no one has ever been turned away, although at this very time the orphanage fed, housed, and educated almost 1,000. There was always room for more children.
The defendant, Dr. Grayson?
Oh, very well. Dr. Grayson's been banking with us for over 40 years.
On the 12th of April, Dr. Grayson came to see you at your office. Would you describe the nature of the doctor's visit?
Well, he came to make a rather, unusual request. Nice to see you, Doctor.
Thank you, thank you.
Well, what can we do for you?
I'd like to transfer about $10,000 into a special account.
Well, that's simple enough. What type of account, Dr. Charlie?
An ordinary checking account under the name of Charlie.
this is something special, Jess. You see, there are a lot of people in this old world who need a helping hand.
We've all sorts of welfare and religious agencies to take care of the needy.
I know, but some of the people I mean are usually considered unworthy or ineligible.
But Dr. Chole, don't you think a trained social worker is a better judge as to who's deserving or not?
That's a debatable question, Jess. But be that as it may, I still want to open that special account, if I may.
Just under the name of Charlie?
Yes.
The dateline of the story is New York City, March 13, 1964. A young woman walking home at night, alone in the city, apprehensive, drawing some small comfort from the friendly glow of neighbors' apartment windows. Her name will make the headlines of tomorrow's papers, for her name is Kitty Genovese.
I'm afraid that I tend to be like most people. I would not want to get involved.
I don't want to get involved. Something is happening to us in these hectic modern cities of ours. Some strange, depersonalizing forces making us strangers to one another. Strangers as we pass on the streets and highways, and strangers to those who live next door to us in the suburban neighborhood or across the hall in the apartment house. What causes it? What does it mean? These are the questions asked by our team of reporters. And the ultimate question before us is, does this growing problem tell us anything significant about the mission of the Christian church in the 20th century?
The serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord had made. And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall surely not die. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to make one wise, she took the fruit thereof, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. And the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked.
I suppose Jack told you that the chief purpose of the Christophers is to get more people of high purpose into the vital fields that affect, for better or for worse, the lives of the majority of mankind. The fields of teaching, government, writing, labor, social service, and library work. And Jack mentioned that we were interested in one picture. As a matter of fact, I'd be interested in lots of pictures on the Christopher idea, because I don't know of any medium in which we could reach the millions of people more effectively through the motion pictures.
job with a purpose, so you can whistle while you work.
Yes, very good, Anne. That's the way to put it. Whistle while you work. But it's really much more than that, too. I'm convinced we're on the brink of the greatest peace the world has ever seen, or the worst disaster.
You make it sound like a matter of life and death, Father.
But, Bill, I really feel it is. Here we are in the greatest country in the world, about the only country left intact. And whether we like it or not, I'm afraid, as America goes, so goes the world.
Why, Father, that's a frightening thought.
Yes, Loretta, but a glorious challenge. It's a wonderful time to be alive. Just think, a little handful of people can change the whole course of history.
Well, maybe more than a handful.
I mean, just that, a handful. 1% is nothing more than a handful. And just think what that 1% has been doing to mess up the world.